All right, so our third video. So if you did a 90-degree rotation from our last video, this is what your paper should look like now, okay? You should have your pre-image and you should have your 90-degree rotation, okay? So this is 90-degree rotation. So what I'm going to do right now, so we don't get confused, I'm going to write 90 degrees right here, okay? And then if you didn't do the 90 degree and you did the 180, your paper is going to look like this, okay? So your paper should only look like one of these two, okay? So right now, at this point in time, you should only have two images drawn. With this video, we're going to move on to our second transformation, which will add our third image, okay? So now we are going to talk about reflections, okay? So first, we'll talk about the 90-degree rotation paper, all right? So the only way we can reflect is over the y-axis or the x-axis, okay? So as we can see here, we cannot flip over the y-axis because we already have something drawn right here. So the only axis we can reflect over is our x-axis. So for our reflection, we can only draw it down here. So right here, I'm going to label this reflection, okay? All right, reflection. And I'm going to put x-axis. All right, so let's work with this one first. If you did the 180, go ahead and skip along to where I start working on the 180-degree rotation. All right, so reflection over the x-axis. All right, so we have our pre-image labeled, we have our rotation labeled. So in our third column, we are going to put reflection. And we're going to put x-axis. All right. So we're going to put at the top of it reflection x-axis, and at the bottom we are going to write our rule, just like we did with rotation. At the rotation we wrote our rule at the bottom. Now we have to write our rule for reflection. Okay. So we start off with our original x comma y, which is our pre-image. Okay. And if we flip over the x-axis, our x values stay the same, but our y values change to the opposite of what they originally were. Okay? So let's not worry about this right now, the graph. So let's put the graph away. Let's just have this in front of us right now. Okay? So let me zoom in. Okay. So we are only focused on the pre-image. We're only focused on the pre-image and the reflection. We're just going to ignore this. So look, I'll put a slip of paper over this so we don't have to look at it, okay? So those are the two images that we're dealing with right now, okay? So again, our rule, let me rewrite it up here, okay? So we have x comma y. Our x values will stay the same and our y values become the opposite of what they originally were, okay? So if we look at A, we have 8, 4. Okay, when we reflect over the x-axis, our x value 8 will stay the same, and 4 will become the opposite. So the opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. Okay, and that's it for A double prime. Now let's move on. B, we have 5, but the opposite of positive 5 is negative 5. Okay. C, we have we'll keep the same x. 3. 6 becomes the opposite, negative 6, okay? And then so forth. We have 2, negative 7, 2, negative 9, 3, negative 11, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video real quick. Go ahead and pause the video as well, your video as well, and finish out your points, okay? And then let me pause my video real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, so since I have all my points labeled now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my graph paper now. Let me zoom out of here so y'all can see. I'm going to pull out my graph paper, and now all I'm going to do is plot all these points that I see, okay? So our first point, we have 8, negative 4, so we go over 8 to negative 4. So our first point is right here, okay? And we'll label this one A double prime. So make sure you put 2 primes there, okay? Let me zoom in so y'all can see, okay? A double prime, okay? Our next letter, let's see, we have 5, negative 5, okay? There we go. So we have 5, negative 5, so here's B, double prime, okay? Next one is C, 3, negative 6, 3, negative 6. Okay? And let me do one more. For example, D is at 2, negative 7, so we have 2, negative 7. So here's D, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pause my video. Go ahead and pause yours as well. Go ahead and fill out the rest of your points, okay? All right, so now that I have all my points graphed, all I have to do now is connect the dots, okay? So let me go ahead and connect the dots real quick. So I have A, B, C, and B, and then just okay. This goes here. Oh, I missed that line. There we go. Okay. This one goes right there. Okay. So now I have a reflection of my hat. Okay. So now all I have to do is make sure I colored in and draw in my details. So let me flip it around so I can draw my details real quick. So I have this right there. Okay. Let's see if I can draw this backwards. Okay, close enough, okay? So now I have a reflection of my hat, okay? So there's my reflection over my x-axis, okay? So if you did a 90-degree rotation yesterday, okay, go ahead and just reflect over the x-axis, okay? And make sure you have all your stuff plotted on your data sheet, okay? You have the formulas and you have the points, okay? So that's it for the 90-degree rotation. So let's go on to the 180-degree rotation. So the students who did the 180-degree rotation, you get to decide if you want to flip over the y-axis or if you want to flip over the x-axis, okay? So if you want to reflect over the x-axis, just rewatch the video that I just did for the 90-degree rotation, okay? Sorry, I did 90 degree. This meant to be 180-degree rotation here, okay? So if you did 180 degrees and you want to flip over the x-axis, go rewind the video and watch what I did for the 90-degree rotation, students, okay? So on this one, we're going to reflect over the y-axis, okay? So I'm going to write reflection, and I'm going to put y-axis, okay? So reflection over the y-axis, okay? So again, we're going to ignore this paper and we're only going to look at this paper right here. All right? So we're going to go in here and we're going to write reflection. And we're going to put y-axis this time. Okay? So when we reflect over the y-axis, our formula, okay, is x comma y, arrow. When we flipped over the y-axis, our y values stay the same, but our x values change. So our x values become the opposite of what they originally were, and our y values stay the same, okay? I forgot my rule over here for 180 degrees, so let me write that down real quick. For 180 degrees, it's negative x, negative y. The opposite of x, opposite of y, okay? So again, here's my rule. I'm going to rewrite it up here for video purposes, okay? You don't have to rewrite it yourself. Just make sure it's at the bottom, okay? So we have opposite x, comma, y, okay? Now let me zoom into this. So the easiest thing to do is just ignore this rotation, okay? We are looking at our original image, which is our pre-image, okay? So here's all of our pre-image points, and we're going to reflect them over the y-axis, okay? So we have the original point 8, comma 4, okay? So when we write it reflecting over the y-axis, our x values become the opposite. So the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8, okay? And our y value stays the same, and our y value is 4. So negative 8, 4, and that's it for A double prime. Okay, moving on to B. B, the opposite of positive 5 is negative 5. and we have positive 5 at the end. Okay? C, opposite of negative 3, or sorry, positive 3 is negative 3. Okay, and we keep our original y value, which was 6. Okay, and I'll do one more. The opposite of positive 2 is negative 2, and we keep our original y value of 7. Okay, I'm going to pause my video. You go ahead and pause and fill out the rest of the points. Alright? Alright, so I have all my points labeled. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my graph paper. Alright, and now all I'm going to do is plot my points, okay? I'm going to plot these points as I see them. So, my first point, A double prime, is at negative 8, 4, okay? So, my first point is here, and that is A double prime, okay? Make sure you label all of your points. B is at negative 5, 5, okay? Negative 5, 5, which is right here. So here's B double prime. Okay. C is at negative 3, 6. Negative 3, 6. C double prime. And I'm going to go ahead and pause my video and plot in the rest of my points here on my graph. Okay. So go ahead and pause your video as well and plot your point. Alright, so now I have all my points plotted and labeled, so all I have to do now is connect my dots, okay? So here are my dots. Okay. There's my reflected hat, and now all I have to do is color and detail my picture, okay? I don't so much color in here, make sure you're coloring yours at home, okay? Okay, so there is my reflected hat, okay? I messed up here, ignore this line. Alright, so once you have this, make sure you have reflection up here, and you have all this, and then you're completely done with reflections, okay? So you either have a paper that looks like this, with a rotation of 180 degrees and a reflection over the y-axis or x-axis, okay? It's one of the two. Or you have this one right here, where you have your pre-image, you have your 90-degree rotation and reflection over the x-axis, okay? So, at the end of this video, you should have a total of 3 images on your graph paper, okay? No more, no less, okay? Tomorrow we will work on the last type of transformation, okay? So go ahead and finish up on this day.